Okay, thank you, Ms. Lubin, for keeping us accountable. And we will now go into our introductory video, The Magic of the Masquerade. No one is hearing?
No, we have no volume.
Okay, one sec. Sorry about that. Can you
Okay, good. Perfect.
Three generations of children did not know about the traditional masquerade. It is a tradition that can bring different age groups and different communities together. Somebody has to do it or it will totally disappear. It is something that can be used to teach. It can be something that can be taught. And I think it's like every traditional aspect, every aspect of tradition we have at home. It is something that should be preserved and continue throughout the years.
Okay, so now we move on to remarks by FRC. Like I did indicate, I'm here also in my capacity as Executive Director, and just be admitting people as they come in. And there has been, the last few weeks, quite a bit of request for, research and resources about Christmas masquerade, Saint Lucian traditions, and just research and whatnot on it. And the fire of 2018 left a great void in what we had available. And so on behalf of the Folk Research Center, I want to thank Mrs. Frederick for helping fill that void again, because just within the 2 weeks, the last 2 weeks, the number of requests that we have gotten, and we do not have resource material. And I think the fact that this is very specific as a resource book will go a very long way in filling that gap, not just in availability of research and resource materials, but filling the gap for generations who may have not yet been introduced to the tradition. And we look forward to all that you will continue to do to keep this tradition going. We applaud all the work that you continue to do with many young people. And I think based on the testimonials that we will see here today, it is encouraging, and our hope through a lot of our partnerships. For example, just during the week, we did sign our official memorandum of understanding with the National Youth Council of Saint Lucian. So our intention is that through this partnership, more young people could appreciate these traditions and become even more active, if not through youth in arts, but other outlets within the communities, as well as the various frameworks and programs that the National Youth Council may have available. So on behalf of the FRC, we want to congratulate you, and it is an honor to be partnering with you. Now we go on to our first testimonial by a young YIA member, Mr. Corey DeTurville. share screen.
Hello, my name is Cordy Tillville, and I am a member of the Youth and Arts Theatre Company's Masquerade group, where I play the role of Cabwit. Cabwit is a member of Papa Jab's entourage, and he's a little higher up in the hierarchy, so he has a lot more freedom and a lot more power than the rest of the entourage. He even has his own battle with Papa Jab, which I very much enjoy. I was introduced to Masquerade at around the age of 9, and I started off as a street dancer and was later introduced to Papa Jab and his entourage. At the time, what really got me into Masquerade was the music and the dancing, and then later, of course, the chants and the movements of Papa Jab and his entourage. What really made me fall in love with Masquerade was its origin story, learning about the origin of Papa Jab and his entourage. See, I studied Caribbean history, and learning about Caribbean history and Caribbean culture, you come across, of course, the slave trade and a term called non-violent resistance. And that's really how Papa Jab and his entourage developed. See, the slave masters who were Christians around the time of Christmas would celebrate the birth of Christ and their own fictional character, which was Santa Claus. And as a form of non-violent resistance, the slaves created their own parody of Santa Claus, which became the devil himself, Papa Jab and his entourage. And that is the story behind it that really got me interested and really made me fall in love with the art form, learning about the history and about the origin and just learning so much more about our culture is what really got me into it. And I just hope that one day, by continuing to express this art form and continuing to help it grow, continuing to perform, that more people would take interest in the art form and more people would want to learn about their culture.
Okay, so that was a wonderful testimonial by Mr. Cordy Tillville. And now we move a little closer to the lady of the hour. Let me just pull up her proper introduction. Otherwise, I may go on and on and on. So, about the author, Mrs. June Frederick, we have more people joining us. Thank you for everyone who's joining us. About Mrs. Frederick. June Frederick is a Saint Lucian cultural activist and educator. She's passionate about the development of youngsters in the arts and traditional masquerade. She believes that the arts provide invaluable disciplines for life while providing youngsters with skills for theater, and that learning about one's culture and participating in traditional arts instills a sense of national pride that nothing else can teach. This is an extract, of course, from the book itself, but like I said, if we are to go on about the passion of Mrs. Frederick, we know what that entails. And so we will now go over to her. Auntie June, you there? You just need to unmute, yes.
I am.
Okay, so next on the program, this is where we move into the book overview. And like I said in the introduction, this is not a novel, so there will be no reading. And so I have two questions, and then of course you will take over. So one, of course, we know that there is the activity book that would have been done previously, PT Kono PT. So tell us why the traditional masquerade of Saint Lucia.
It's while I was doing my work with Masquerade, I realized that CXC had introduced a theater arts program, or we in Saint Lucia began the CXC theater arts program. And many of the youngsters who were doing theater arts wanted to do papers on Saint Lucia's traditional masquerade. At the time, the only thing available was Piti Konu Piti, which is really a children's activity book with DVD, which I did a few years ago out of soon after a project that was done when I was at FRC with UNESCO. And the kids were using, the youngsters were using this book as it was the only book that they could get based on the traditional masquerade. So I realized that there was an absolute need to get traditional masquerade out there, information on traditional masquerade, which students could use. But even more than that, to try and attract more people to understand and appreciate the folk arts. Because I have also found that people know it's there, but they don't quite understand. Therefore, they don't really appreciate. So that was one of the reasons why I actually decided to do a book on the traditional masquerade. And of course, I have been doing traditional masquerade for almost 20 years now. And it is just the second part of what I really want to do. So that was my reasoning actually for doing the book on traditional masquerade. And I think we lost Louise. Oh no, she's back.
Had to get some light.
Okay.
Thank you for that. So now you're going to take us through the book. I will put the cover up on screen, but can you take us through the chapters, what we could expect, and then of course, where is it available?
Okay. The Traditional Masquerade of Saint Lucia has about 7 chapters based on Saint Lucia's traditional masquerade, the art of the costuming, the characters and everything. And so it has 7 chapters. The first chapter would be on the characters, the music and the dance of the masquerade. A lot of people in St. Lucia don't even know the names of the characters. And of late, I used to hear people referring to our traditional masquerade as the Pai Banan. And I had so many times to correct people and tell them Pai Banan is only just one character. You would notice also, if I may go back a little bit, that the beautiful painting on the front of the book was done by Alwyn Santoma. And I am so appreciative of Mr. Santoma and his work towards trying to ensure that masquerade continues to live. His paintings can be found in the book, as well as the paintings of Jonathan Gladding. He was once a Peace Corps volunteer who came to St. Lucia and actually fell in love with the country and its people. And I asked him as well to do some paintings of the masquerade. I also wanted to explain the music of the masquerade, which I did in the second chapter. I was very afraid that we were losing the essence of our music. I know that because we had not done any recording of the masquerade music, we had I tend to call it machine-made music. I can't blame anybody for that. I like the idea that at least what is generated from the drum machine is there and people can understand it, but it's a bit quicker than the actual music of the masquerade. People don't know what the instruments are. And that will be, I should tell you now, that will be my next choice of research, because I really want to get more people involved in the music of the masquerade. Chapter 3 deals with the movements of the masquerade. Things evolve, different people do different movements. The movements of the masquerade I learned not only from my childhood looking at the masquerade, but from a wonderful old gentleman called Mr. Guisson from the Valley in Oleon. And he just had the most amazing movements that he would do with the masquerade, as well as what I learned from Mrs. Marcia Pilgrim. They are both deceased, Mr. Guisson and Mrs. Pilgrim, and they taught about the music, the movements of the masquerade. There are distinct patterns and movements, I am happy to tell you that the movements in the book are all named by the Youth in Arts masqueraders. Some of the names are really very funny. They done mainly in Creole. Chapter 4 deals with the characters. We have so many absolutely beautiful characters. And that chapter 4 deals with both sets of characters. I don't know if people are familiar with the fact that we have two groups of characters in the masquerade. One group dances to the music of the masquerade, and the second group does not dance to the music, but performs to the rhythm of chants and acts out death and resurrection rituals on the street. So chapter 4 is an actually beautiful, it's really beautiful, especially with Jonathan Gladding's paintings in that chapter. Chapter 5 deals with Papa Job's chants, the chants of Papa Job. These that breed so much excitement in people, and there are quite a few of them. I tried to get as many as I could. The person who I really would like to thank, there are so many people I want to thank, but the one who really introduced it to the chants of the masquerade was Mr. Eric Branford. He actually came to FRC when we were doing the project and taught us about the chants of the masquerade. Chapter 6 is the rituals, the death and resurrection rituals of Papa Job and his entourage, and there are actually two. I get a lot of questions about why is there a devil at Christmas? And I really and truly hope that as many people as possible would read this book so that they could understand the reasoning for the devil at Christmas. I think Corey de Turville said it very well in his testimonial. And it should be something that we know. It's not an evil devil like the church created. He is a mischievous devil. Chapter 7 has some little interesting facts about Saint Lucia's traditional masquerade. And then the final page is about the author, yours truly, and the two artists, Mr. Alvin Santoma and Mr. Jonathan Gladding. It's an actually wonderful keepsake because of the paintings, the wonderful layout of the book, for which I would like to thank Mrs. Carol Mitchell of Caribbean Reads Publishing.
Well, thank you very much for that. But I don't think you told us the most important thing, some of us may already know, but let us know, where can we find a copy of this incredible piece of work?
Okay, the book is available on Amazon. And I'm very happy to announce at this point, we've already sold 35, and there are a few people waiting, especially from the UK, to try and get their copies of that book, which is not going to be available until end of January for the folks in the UK. So it's available there. Sadly, in Saint Lucia, we do not have very many bookstores left. Miss Beverly Scarrett has actually asked us to make sure I hurry and send her some copies for her store.
Some will also be at the FRC library.
That's right, so the FRC library, and there are some local artisans fairs coming up, and I have been asked to provide books for them as well. So these are the places that the books will be available. I also have very few limited copies, which I can sell here. They're very few, and anyone who wants can contact me and they will get the copies here.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for this wonderful overview. Of course, oh yes, the cost, of course.
EC $40. I need to make it as reasonable as possible. And 40 EC dollars is what the charge for the books will be here in St. Lucia.
Okay. I think it's safe to say anybody who has not yet decided on what, a potential Christmas gift maybe for somebody, now may be the time. And so, Mrs. Frederick, thank you for that. Now we move into Zena, who is also a member of the Youth in Arts. company, and so Zaina will be taking us through her experience. So Corey was Cabwit, and now we're moving to Zaina. But Zaina is here with us live. So Zaina, are you ready?
Yes, I am. Good day to everybody in the meeting. Thank you for having me here. I have been asked by the one and only Miss June to talk about.
Zaina, excuse me, we can't see you. Is your camera supposed to be on?
Okay, well, I can put it on. Hold on. Oh, can you? Ooh,
there we go. Yes.
Hi, I have my little dress on, just for the occasion. I was here to speak about why I enjoy Masquerade. And I think the short answer is because of Auntie June, and the long answer is because of Auntie June. But we can get into both reasonings. As some of you may not know, I entered not using arts, CDF when I was 8 years old. And I was very opposed to learning about anything that wasn't singing. And one of the things that Auntie June was really pushing for was Masquerade at the time. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do any dances. I don't want to do any chants. I want to sing. I didn't get to sing, and I was extremely angry about that. And I didn't want to come next year. And then my daddy told me I had to come next year. So I was like, okay, I'll come next year. I decided to give it a chance, and I really love the experience. I love the people, and I love Auntie June. And I apologize to her for, just not willingly learning anything. When the ad for Youth in Arts came around, I think 2 years later, my mommy was like, oh, you want to join that? And I was like, yeah, I really want to join this. And that's when I went on to do my first professional production with Youth in Arts, Papa Job the Devil at Christmas, which entails some of the story of the masquerade, and learning about the masquerade through that experience and through the future experiences with Youth in Arts kept me falling in love with masquerade. When I had to do my first masquerade street performance, I was Cheval Bois. And I was surprised I was doing the performance. I was like, okay, this is something I never thought I'd ever do. And I loved it so much. And up to a day like today, I still am casted for Cheval Bois. I still am a part of the chants. I've taught, all because Auntie June has given me the opportunity to. And to try and answer the question why I enjoy Masquerade, it's so hard because there's so many things about it, so many things in the experience, and so many things of how I had to fall in love with it as an art form. If I didn't enjoy Masquerade, I wouldn't be doing theater. And if I didn't do theater, frankly, I would not have graduated with as many awards I did. I wouldn't have enjoyed my passion for theater as much as I did. I wouldn't have been a well-rounded individual, and I would not be open to change. And frankly, all that has come about not just from learning Masquerade and enjoying it, but because I learned and enjoyed Masquerade because of Auntie June. And to be a part of the book making process, giving some of the names and being in this meeting is not something my 8-year-old self would have ever thought I could do. And it's all thanks to Auntie June and her experience, the experience I had with her teaching me the masquerade, teaching me to be more open-minded, and just, being passionate about things she loves. And that passion evokes passion, you know what I'm saying? So that's why I enjoy the masquerade, and that's why I'm very thankful for you all having me here today. I'm very happy about the book launch. I'm very happy for you, Auntie June.
Zaina, thank you so much. It's really lovely that we had you live, because the energy that we just got, and yeah, thank you. If I also am to add in my capacity from an FRC perspective, for the launch of Creole Heritage Month this year, Zaina, we were able to bring Floor Bwagaya to life for the very first time. And Zaina played an excellent Floor Bwagaya for Creole Heritage Month launch. So Zaina, it has been an absolute delight watching you evolve, and thank you for letting us know what the genesis of that journey has been for you. So,
Thank you.
yes. So now we open, this is a question and answer segment. For those who came in after, we did have the event flow up on screen just a little bit earlier. And so now we move into questions and comments. I know I see Mr. Alwyn St. Omer here. The author has spoken about him in detail. So I'm not sure if he would want to get the ball rolling. Otherwise, do feel free to raise your hand and we will acknowledge you.
Hello, you're referring to me?
Yes, Mr. St. Omer, yes.
Oh, yes. Well, I grew up in Central Castries, and I was always intrigued by the masquerade. It was part of the Christmas theater, and in those days, Christmas was really special. And we look forward to Everton Lawrence and his band of black boys and Mary Set and the whole group of them. It was part of a Christmas tradition. It made our Christmas so much richer. You know, it's something that is missing now. But what happened was, as I grew up, the tradition faded. And I always wanted to, I thought, what happened to these guys? What happened? You know, I mean, I knew June was doing all this work still with the children, and that was so fantastic. But the guys on the street, what happened to the black boys? Some people say it's because the Castries Basin disappeared, that they disappeared because some of them were stevedores, some of them work with city council. And, you know, but it's something that, which I later found was not just, it was also part of something that we also, I find it was also, they were also ritualistic. As I grew up, I found out that the masquerade were really ritualistic gifts from our African past, emanating from secret acts of rebellion. And in having discussions with Alwyn Bully, because I was always from Dominica, because I always interested, what happened to these guys? What happened in Saint Lucia? I studied in Jamaica, and I knew the tradition still goes on there in Jamaica as John Canoe and in St. Kitts and these islands. But in St. Lucia, for some strange reason, it disappeared, at least the community tradition, you know? So in my research, I found out that it was also part of environmental decay, you know? We were not only losing our tradition, but we were also losing things that made us who we were, you know? And as I did more and more research, I found that it was, these were ritualistic gifts from our African past, emanating from secret acts of rebellion. In other words, when the slave masters would allow the so-called slaves on the plantation to celebrate while they having the parties in the house, our ancestors would revert to what they knew, the wedding ritual, the death ritual, the birth ritual. You know, they would wear the mask as a link to Africa. It was a way of getting back and soothing that hurt from the motherland where they were so savagely torn. It was a silent conquest over those who sought to be their masters, you know? And when I discovered that, I said, wow, you know, Daddy's doing this Madonna thing, and maybe I can continue his tradition with the other cultural traditions. You know, Daddy did it in a religious way, and I was doing it in in this trying to save our culture in that way. So for me, it was, you know, what do you call this thing in America, where the blacks are fighting for their rights? It was a way of fighting for our rights. And having disappeared, it is a way of, you know, bringing this back, man. And I have been speaking to fellows like Fish and these guys and saying, wow, you know, I mean, how can you get this back on the road? How can you get the tradition back? And well, you know, that is my long crusade. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. St. Omer. And I think it's safe to say that we do see your passion translating in all of your pieces. So just as we are grateful for Mrs. Frederick, we are also grateful for you.
Thank you.
Yes. Do we have comments or questions?
I love what Mrs. Frederick is doing, because I mean, you see, bringing it back to the kids, because maybe that is one source of saving it.
Indeed.
You know, yeah, the continuation of our culture. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Do we have comments or questions from anyone? I do see someone saying congratulations. I think that is Jacinta, but if anybody else would like to add, just please do so by show of hands. If not, then we will go into our next testimonial. Going once, going twice, going thrice. For comments?
I would like to say something, but I'm not sure.
We can hear you, Mrs.
Can I go ahead, Louis?
Yes, you can. So we have Ms. Burton.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and special good afternoon to our hosts and our guest of honor, Auntie June Frederick. Well, I think personally, you know how I feel about this initiative. But on behalf of course, CDF and the cultural fraternity, I would like to first congratulate you on this this book. It has reached the stage of launching, and I know the journey was a tedious one and a difficult one, but we're happy and we would like to congratulate you that you have reached this point. Comment that I really want to make relates a little to what Mr. St. Omer has said. Being at the Cultural Development Foundation and being involved in training and development of artists and persons who are interested in the culture, we always struggle to get resource material, and we always struggle to get material that has been properly researched. And we always have the issue about making a decision about the authenticity of the material or the content that we have available to us. And I know the Focus Research Center, you've done quite a lot of research over the years into the cultural art forms of Saint Lucian and so on. What this initiative really helps us to do, and I'm saying us here in terms of cultural enthusiasts and workers and practitioners in general, is put that authenticity out into the world. Too often we find sometimes that persons are making material available, but it's questionable. Some of the content isn't right, it's not accurate. Some of it is because they have other motives and so on. But when we do that kind of work and it's well researched, that we have persons who involved in the projects who have that base, who go to the source of the information and get it done and record it and document it in the way that June has done here, then we can rely on it and we can feel confident in using that material to train the young people. My other comment is about where we are now and why this piece of material and all of those that are to come, because I'm hoping that, of course, this initiative is going to motivate a lot more of this kind of work. There is really, really a need for it. There's almost a void whether it's you know, in terms of books, or once it's content and it's resource material, there is really a need for it. But the point that I want to make relates to the two testimonies that we've heard so far. And it goes beyond just you know, what June has done here is beyond just the book. It is getting young people to understand themselves. And I think when Alwyn spoke, you heard that it came almost natural because, you know, it was something that they experienced as in their childhood and so on. And June speaks to that. Where we are now in terms of our cultural environment, we have evolved to the point where it's almost secondary in nature for the young people. So there is need for that kind of material, but also for the kinds of efforts that I see June and other persons like myself in youth and arts and so on, and some of the other teachers and facilitators, what they do in terms of getting not just youth to just practice or get involved in the art forms, but to develop passion, to develop the other secondary things that come out of it, the discipline. We heard some of the points that Zaina made about its influence in her life. And we see where our country is going and avoid the need for us to stamp that on the lives of our young people, for us to help them to find themselves, to appreciate who they are, to recognize that we have a rich culture, we have something to give the world, not just that we do this for others, but we appreciate it even for ourselves. Both of the young people who have spoke so far speak about it not being part of their growing up, but being introduced to it at a point where, because they were still open and they were still, you know, we were still able to influence them, the way it impacted their youthfulness. So I want to really congratulate June on the job that she's done. Yes, in terms of writing his book, but even before that, in terms of attracting the attention of the young people. I've worked with her. I know what she can do. I know where the passion is there. I don't think that it is something that she has to make an effort to do. So I'm really happy that I'm part of this and I can witness this launch now. And I'm sure even for myself and some of the other persons here and the persons who may not have attended today, but have experienced this, I think this is the beginning of a really nice journey. And be motivating a lot more of this kind of work, and certainly to assist folks at Center in that documentary process of getting some of the resources that we've lost back in circulation. So congratulations again, June, and congratulations for Research Center and all the enthusiasts, all the youth and so on who have contributed to this piece of work. I'm proud.
Thank you, Ms. Burton. And I also want to acknowledge the presence of Mrs. Ramona Henry Wynn, who also joined Executive Director of the Cultural Development Foundation. Very well said, Ms. Burton, and thank you. I see Mr. Robert Frederick and Mr. Didicus Jules hands up. So Mr. Frederick, I will allow you to go first, and then over to Dr. Jules. You're muted.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, before I sort of say what I really would like to say very briefly, allow me to acknowledge, I hope I'm not telling tales out of school, that June, Auntie June, Mrs. Frederick, however you'd like to refer to her, always downplays the significant value that her efforts, not only in this publication, but in the previous one, bring to the development of young people. You would have gotten a couple of samples of that this evening. And she doesn't like to openly admit it, but it has an overwhelmingly positive effect on the self-esteem and sense of self-worth of the young people with whom she comes into contact. I just wanted to register that observation because she wouldn't do it. And also to congratulate her on behalf of the children and myself on what has been a labor of love, something that she's had an extreme passion for doing for some time. And don't believe she doesn't have a third publication in her back pocket. She does. But we would just, as her family, immediate family members, love to congratulate her and tell her how very proud we are of her getting to this stage. We love you dearly. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Frederick. And indeed, we do have Kareem, Kumari, and Dassel on the call. So I think it's fair to say, Auntie June, that your family is there with you. And we now move on to Dr. Jules.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, and we can see you now, yes.
Yeah, sorry about that. Well, like everyone, I'd like to congratulate June for this piece of work that she's done. To share with Bobby the telling of secrets. Those of us who know June well would not be surprised that this book her first book has been an expression of the art of dance, because June has always wanted to be a dancer and she's lived vicariously through Dassel. So, you know, in many ways, Dassel has accomplished what she wanted to do on the stage, but she has still come through by publishing this work. I also want to vicariously acknowledge Bobby for his support, because he's always supported June in her passion for culture and dance. The testimonials that, as Celeste noted, has pointed to June's journey with young people. And as Bobby indicated, she really has had a profound influence on the lives of young people and helped them to find their center of gravity. Kiddiecrew.com, or Kiddie Crew had a huge impact on an entire generation of young persons. And I can give a particular testimonial because one of those young persons, Miguel Luisi, was in fact an intern just a year ago at the OECS Commission. And we were able to guide Miguel to look at a potential career in international development. One of the challenges on the international development scene from an OECS perspective is that we don't have enough nationals working within the international system, places like the UN and the various multilaterals. And in fact, Miguel's pathway to that is a very important development, because the more we have young persons fired about international development issues and moving into that space, that occupational space, is going to help us at many levels in our effort to build resilience and have more voice at the international level. What is critical about this, to come to Bobby's point about the impact on their self-esteem and so on, is that it has the knowledge of their culture and their grounding in their sense of self and identity does a lot and changes the perspective completely when young persons move out on the international stage. Because we have seen, I'm sure all of us know persons who have left Saint Lucia and migrated and have, you know, done well career-wise in different international positions. But some of these people, they lose themselves, you know, they get assimilated into the culture of the country to which they've migrated. Some of them actually decry their Saint Lucian identity. It is only now in the era of Black Lives Matter and the huge impact of systemic racism that some of these people are returning to their roots. But it's a very different thing for you to step out into the wider world with a very sure sense of self, who you are, the pride in who you are, a knowledge of what you represent, and therefore an ability to make a contribution from that center of gravity. I want to congratulate June on putting out this book, but I want to suggest to her that the work is far from complete. I've not seen the book yet. And of course, June, I expect you to have my autograph copy waiting for me. As soon as your domestic protocol will allow, I'll come to your home to collect and pay for my book. But it's far from complete, because a book like that, to do justice, cannot just be a one-dimensional print document. I want to suggest that edition 2 of this book must embed videos and so on. I imagine in the book you will be discussing the different art forms, the styles, the characters of the masquerade. You need to bring that to life in an ebook so that people can see video snippets. They can have pictures of pictures of the characters and maybe, little blurbs, and even some of the testimonials of, like we heard today, of the young people who have inhabited these characters, for them to speak to what it means to them and how they felt impersonating those characters and what it has done for them beyond just the impersonation of the character. So I think that is really going to bring the work to full fruition. And congratulations to you and FRC for this extraordinary achievement. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jules. We definitely second that the notion of an edition 2 being that ebook. And just to speak to just a little to what that process looked like for FRC with Creole Heritage Month this year, and we were able to take so much rich resource material out of books and bring them to life through video content for Creole Heritage Month was truly something. So I think undoubtedly that experience that we had this year, Mrs. Frederick could no doubt, I think we shouldn't even sleep on it. Probably it would be a very good project for December 2021. So Dr. Jules, thank you very much for those very valuable points. I also see Miss Carol Mitchell. I believe she is from the publishing company or the publisher. Mrs. Mitchell.
Hi, give me a second. Hi, so I'm Carol Mitchell, and Mrs. Frederick, I know her because she taught me history in St. Kitts a couple of years ago. And she came to me a few years ago with this idea. And one of the missions of Caribbean Reads, which is a publisher, is to really enhance the stock of Caribbean books that are available particularly for children, but also for adults, that will, just as Dr. Jules was saying, we need having books that represent our culture and our everyday lives and our reality is really a great way to build confidence. You see yourself, you recognize yourself as part of the world. And so, we really try to improve the stock of these books. So we were very excited to partner with Mrs. Frederick on this project. And, she might tell you, we went back and forth. It's been quite a journey on, in terms of the editing and the wonderful, beautiful photographs. And, she really wanted to get things just right, especially in the description of the dance moves. Dr. Jules was talking about making it interactive, which I think is a great step, because we really struggled to describe the moves in a way that someone can pick it up and reproduce the dances. But in words, it's hard to do that. And so I really would love to see a second iteration of this, which included a video kind of component. But we're really excited to have the book as part of our catalog, and we're looking forward to lots of support and to see what happens going forward from this book. It's just the start. So thanks, and thank you for putting all this together. It's been a beautiful launch, and I'm really happy to be a part of it.
Thank you so much, Carol. And probably actually Dr. Jules has a note there for you in the chat. So definitely be sure to check that out. I also see Mrs. Ramona Henry Wynn. So after Mrs. Wynn, we will go on to our final testimony and then into our closing remarks. Mrs. Wynn?
Hi, I don't know if you're hearing me.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I would just like to express, heartiest congratulations to Mrs. Frederick on this publication. I mean, I have followed some of her interviews on the Masquerade, and it's every interview she does, it comes from a place of love. It comes from you see, it's like a labor of love. It's not just her talking about the Masquerade, but how she has immersed herself into it and sort of taken it across to a lot of the young persons. I mean, very often you hear persons talking about the culture is dying, the art forms are dying, but she has been very proactive with the Masquerade and has done so much, and you could see how the younger persons that she continuously work with, how they have embraced it, and how the passion that a lot of them have for it. And I would just like, to say to Mrs. Frederick, congratulations on a job well done. And I know for you, this is just the beginning of this journey. Like Dr. Jules said, there are other things that can be done. So I'd like to say, hats off to you. And I wish you all the best in this endeavor.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Wynn, and thank you all for your comments and your feedback. We also see quite a bit of congratulatory messages in the chat. So thank you everyone for your contributions in there. We now go on to our final testimonial by Mr. Tarek Wilson. Let me just share my screen. Share.
Hi, my name is Tarek Wilson. I'm a member of the Youth in Arts Theatre Company and its Masquerade Group. I play Pai Banan. But before I get into Pai Banan, allow me to share my story, my Masquerade story. I was first introduced to Masquerade by Delano Payne at the age of 7 at the Vic Butai Primary School, which I attended. Just imagine, a 7-year-old me was extremely timid, but Masquerade brought me out of my shell. The music, the movement, the whole essence of Masquerade spoke to me. It allowed me to truly be liberated and be myself unapologetically. Masquerade has provided me with numerous opportunities. Last year, I had the honor of representing Saint Lucia at a cultural exchange in Martinique, where I met wonderful young persons like myself from St. Kitts, Grenada, and Martinique. And there I shared with them Saint Lucia's Masquerade and a little more about our culture. Now, allow me to tell you about Pai Banan. Pai Banan does whatever Pai Banan wants to do. If Pai Banan wants to dance with the masqueraders, Pai Banan will. If Pai Banan wants to break out into a solo, you best believe Pai Banan will. Pai Banan does whatever Pai Banan wants to do. And that's our similarities. We do whatever we want to do when we want to do it. I'd like to encourage each and every one of you out there to learn more about the Masquerade. It is our tradition, it is our culture, and together we can keep it alive. Masquerade is a new anu chebe.
Oops. Pause. There we go. There we go. Okay. There we have it, yet another powerful testimony. And so now we move into our, just pull up our event flow, our program for those who may have joined in a bit late, just to see where we are. Right, so we are at the closing remarks. So Mrs. Frederick, the author, will do the closing remarks. She has deeper, more intimate knowledge of the persons who have been involved, the persons who have been part of this. And so, Mrs. Frederick, over to you now.
Folks, I just want to say that I really do appreciate everybody being here this evening. There were so many people who contributed to this book. My main sources of contribution came from way back when. I need to pay a special tribute to my parents, because without my mom and dad, I would not have had the love I have for this country and its culture. My mom and dad made sure that I participated in everything, took me to every cultural everything, made me understand it. And I got this love and passion for my country and the arts from them. The other people that I need to say a big thank you to would be Mr. Eric Branford and Gregor Williams, Saint Lucia's historians. They, in chatting with them and speaking to them, they gave me so much more insight into the culture and traditions of our country, as well as I spoke to Hazel Simmons MacDonald very briefly, and she was just so inspirational, especially in terms of looking up information on Papa Jab. Dr. Winston Fulgence about the whole African history. Michelle Thibbles was also a great supporter. Michelle Thibbles, in case you don't know, I consider one of St. Lucia's young and most upcoming genius young directors. I mean, Michelle sees things in culture, traditions, and theater that we haven't even started to look at. And of course, my youth and arts theater company, youngsters, my masqueraders, my directors, everybody in that family who has really given me much support. Of course, I have to make special mention of the late Mr. Giso, Mr. Montero from the Valley. These were our original masqueraders and musicians. I remember when I first decided that I needed to get masquerade back in the street in the 1990s. It was Mr. Giso, Mr. Montero, and the late Athanasius Laborde, God rest his soul, who came and were really, and Lapo Cabrit, who really worked with me. Special mention of Mr. Cyril Slade Michel, Mr. Jean, Mr. Nigel Nestor, Cuthbert Popo, all those people who continue to work tirelessly. I must pay special tribute also to Mr. Barry George and his Silver Shadows Dance Academy. Mr. Barry George has been staging masquerade for over 30 years. And I came back home to St. Lucia after 12 years and I met him and I saw what they were doing. And I have got very much appreciation from him for what I do. So there is a nice beneficial appreciation, if I may say so, from him. MyKiddieCrew.com Kids, that was my host for the children's television program for children by children. They were the ones who participated in my first attempt to put masquerade on the streets of Castries. Of course, to my precious family and my husband and kids. Thank you for keep putting up with me. I get very passionate about my stuff, and sometimes I get a few meltdowns, but they have grown to understand and appreciate and forgive. And my YIA masqueraders, you continue to inspire me. Folks have said that I inspire you, but I think that inspiring is mutual. I get my strength from you. I have heard many people say in the past that children don't want to learn about our traditions. That is not true. It is the way that we bring our traditions to the children. We have to learn to speak their language. We have to learn to help them to understand where we're coming from and why we think it is so important. And I think once we continue to do that, and once we continue to show the passion for what is ours, the children will actually play a special part in it. Without them latching onto it, there is no survival of the art forms. And one of the reasons why I did this book is because I want the art forms, that this particular art form, to live. It is so exciting that, and it needs to be taught. It is a combination of our African and Caribbean and African and European cultures that have made us so Caribbean, and we must always continue to live with it. I know I have a lot of work to do. I'm going to do it. You know, I want to see a postcard, a Christmas card with not just Santa Claus. I want to see him liming with toes, with Papa Jab. I want to see the T-Jabs liming with his elves. I want us to bring home the fact that these are all traditions, one which really and truly belongs to us. It is an exciting tradition. I want to say a special thank you to the Cultural Development Foundation, especially to Celeste Burton. Celeste was one who really embraced what I was doing, and one who saw the need that, like I did, to put our children in touch with their culture and traditions. And I really appreciate the opportunity to do this. And what I have seen, I must tell you about Zaina. Zaina really actually was she is one of my success stories. From a child who never wanted to come to learn about her culture, to a child who now so participates in it, to a child who has become so confident, to a child who has won every single award there was to win at her graduation. She is one of my success stories, and I'm just hoping to see so many more of them, because people, if we do not pass our passion on, there is no way that our traditions and culture can live. People have asked me, I've had people say, why are you in that masquerade thing like that? I'm not in the masquerade thing. I am proud of it, and I want others to appreciate it and to be proud. And the only way you can appreciate what you have is to learn and understand it. And that is what I really, really want to do. COVID-19 has come with so many different sides. Today, folks, I would have been on the street with my masqueraders, our first day of street masquerade. And that is why I wanted to do this launch today. It is so significant and has so much meaning. I think I would have had withdrawal symptoms today if I did not have this to work on, not being able to work on my costumes, not being able to look at my kids, not being able, I think I would have had withdrawal symptoms. I also want folks here to understand that masquerade is street theater. It is part of the theater arts family. And theater does so much for our young people in terms of developing their skills for life. And I am glad to be part of this, doing it through the masquerade. I just want to assure Dr. Jules and Carol and everybody else that I know this is only the beginning. Actually, Piti Konupiti was my beginning. It came with a DVD. It has so many wonderful things on it that I'm trying now to share on social media. I know I have to make this real. I have to speak the language of the young people, let them really feel as if they're part of it when they're learning about it. And so I know COVID-19 has shown me the way in terms of using the technology. If when you're traveling along the roads in the north, you happen to be in the traffic and get stopped by the screens, the large road screens, you will see Youth in Arts Theatre Company and Youth in Arts Masqueraders on there, because I want people to continue to feel it, regardless of whether we have had to do otherwise. This year we have gone virtual. COVID has taught us a serious lesson that we need to use the technology to get our children more immersed in our culture and traditions. And ladies and gentlemen, I would just like to say a big thank you to Folk Research Center. Next to my parents, the National Trust and the Folk Research Center gave me my beginnings. They gave me a further interest in being immersed in what is ours, what is Saint Lucian. And I must say, all FRC and the National Trust will always hold a very special place in my heart. And thank you very much, Louise, for allowing me to be hosted by FRC. I would like to say also a big thank you to Fiona Compton and Logo Lionel. They were the ones responsible for that first video that you saw on the Magic of the Masquerade, which is almost like a trailer for a 5-minute video, which they did along with Kamaya Lisette, which will soon be airing on Choice Television. Ladies and gentlemen, I do not know how to thank you even more. I know that my book is worthy of the cost. And I also would like to tell you that the first book, Piti Kwanu Piti, the sale of that book goes towards the development of our traditional masquerade. So if you would like to purchase that book, you can also purchase it. There are very few copies left. And I'm going to redo that book in another format so that more children, more adults can read it. Please, ladies and gentlemen, do not be afraid of learning about your culture. And children will learn once you can teach them in a way that they enjoy. And I think that is why they learn so much through the theater arts, because they enjoy what they do, and it really and truly creates in them life skills, really develops life skills and creates a national pride that nothing else can create. And so I would like to say a big thank you to you. My book is available on Amazon. I have a few copies here in St. Lucia. My number is 584-2074. You can actually WhatsApp me on that number, and I will see how I can best get the books to you. Folk Research Center will also have those books as well. So and Folk Research Center is located on Barnard Hill, right opposite the entrance to the Cultural Development Foundation and the National Cultural Center. So please buy it. It's a very enjoyable book, if I may say so myself. It's light reading. It's not very heavy. It also gives you a little lesson in Creole, because all Papa Jab's chants are in Creole. And I also would like you to check my blog. My blog is called Culture Corner St. Lucia.com, and it uses traditional masquerade to teach the history of St. Lucia. So please feel free to go on that blog and learn everything you need to learn, and follow us on social media, on Facebook, WhatsApp, Youth in Arts, and just continue to let us immerse you into this tradition. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Frederick. So very, very well said. For those who may have not yet engaged with the blog, I have placed the link in the chat, so it will take you straight there. And thank you all for joining us. And for those who came in a little later, I just want to play the video again, The Magic of Masquerade, because I remember the first time I saw that video. So I will play that video, and then we will say goodbye. Or if there's virtual drinks, Then
You can
feel
have one
free.
with
We
me.
can, yeah. So let me just play that video.
The tradition had died. Three generations of children did not know about the traditional masquerade. It is a tradition that can bring different age groups and different communities together. Somebody has to do it or it will totally disappear. It is something that can be used to teach. It can be something that can be taught. And I think it's like every traditional aspect, every aspect of tradition we have at home. It is something that should be preserved and continued throughout the years.
Well, there you have it, Mrs. Frederick. Congratulations. Everyone, go get your copy of the Traditional Masquerade of Saint Lucia. It is available on Amazon. You can get it from the Folk Research Center. We will be open on Tuesday, so grab your copies. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here. A very, very special thank you again to Miss Carol Mitchell, Miss Burton, and other representatives from the CDF. Dr. Jules, we appreciate you being here, as well as Mr. Barry George from Silver Shadow, and everyone else who has been showing their support. Thank you. I think Mandy is saying there should be virtual drinks. So if we can raise our glasses, I mean, I have water. Let's just cheers. Yay. Cheers, everybody, to masquerade season. Thank you and have a wonderful evening, everyone.